I'm Thalie Martini, CEO of Breast Cancer UK, and welcome to the Be Well podcast. Today I'm talking with a magnificent athlete, an icon in UK women's sport. Sporty as a child, she loved rugby and football, but inspired by her brother's passion for football, she opted to don the football boots herself. Starting at Birmingham City, she moved to Chelsea in 2018, winning England's top flight 5 times in her 6 years with the team. Now, during this time, she cemented her place in the England team, going on to win Euro 2022 and again representing the Lionesses in the 2023 World Cup. In 2024, she made a big move over the pond to play for Gotham FC in New York. Now, my guest has sadly been impacted by cancer on a personal level, with her fiancée Anne-Catherine Berger, also a football player, being treated for thyroid cancer, but also her sister for breast cancer in the last few years. Now, this difficult personal journey has prompted my guest to become a huge supporter of cancer charities in general and raising large sums of money as well as awareness of prevention. And she also wrote a blog for us at Breast Cancer UK, which I encourage you all to check out on our website. Now, as a breast cancer prevention charity, we are so grateful when high-profile influencers take the time to raise awareness and support for prevention of cancer, which is why I am so excited to welcome Jess Carter to our podcast. Jess, I'm really thrilled you could join us today.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too. Well, I'm going to launch straight into it. I want to find out about your career and the fact that you launched your impressive sporting career at quite a young age, making your debut in the Champions League in the quarterfinal for Birmingham FC just at the age of 16. So can you tell us, was that your dream growing up? Did you always want to be an athlete? And did you actually think you could make it your profession?
No, to be honest, growing up, I always loved sport. I played every sport I was allowed to play, but I never dreamed of being a professional athlete. I think it wasn't something when I was growing up that was an option. I had no idea what I wanted to be, but I just played football every day and got given some opportunities, and it kind of just ended up being a profession, not one that I dreamed to do.
So your talent probably was something that really was the thing that got you noticed?
Yeah, I think so. I obviously played for what's classed as like a local team or grassroots team, and then I went to an open trial at Birmingham, and I got in on that day of the open trial, and I think that it's just kind of my career's just taken off from there, and joining obviously Birmingham at a late age in terms of from an academy perspective, but at the same time early to start with the seniors. So yeah, I think from there and my experiences at Birmingham, my time there, it just helped me get to, to Chelsea, to England, to Gotham.
Wonderful. And so your career did skyrocket from that point onwards, and you were a crucial part of the England team who won the Euros 2022, which was brilliant. And you were also chosen for the World Cup squad in 23. And so you've attained really global success at this stage with Chelsea and now Gotham. What is your proudest achievement on the football field and why?
That's tough to say. I think that it was probably my move to Chelsea. Like I said, I love my time at Birmingham. When I was there, I don't feel like it was a professional environment, but it was professional in terms of where the women's game was at that point. But like players had to have multiple jobs in order to eat, to live. So it almost felt that people were playing as a hobby because they couldn't do it as their sole profession. Obviously, I was only young, so I lived at home, so I could just play football and go to college, and that was fine. And I think when I joined Chelsea, that's where it then went to me like, wow, this is really a profession, and this is something that if you're going to do this every day, then this is the level that you need to get to. Joining Chelsea was a huge step up. So I think that was when I realized it's actually my job, not just a hobby anymore. And that was in order to be a female football player professionally, I had to really raise my standards.
Right, and so that sounds like a pretty tough thing to do, to go from, I suppose, playing when you can because you've got to work, to raising your game. What does it take to stay on top of your game day in, day out?
I'm still trying to figure it out, to be honest. I think that it's just a case of um, whether it's obviously the football side of it, or the gym, the nutrition, the mentality side, your recovery. I feel like there's lots of like different aspects to being a footballer, but I think you have to utilize the facilities and the people that you work with day in and day out in order to be at the top and listen to the experts in their field on maybe what you need as an athlete to be the best you can be.
And we're talking so much more now about women's football and getting more excited, and I know the audiences are growing, and you've really contributed a lot to help raising the profile of women's sport, even the world over, the football world over. And I'm conscious that there would have been far fewer visible women in this space, let alone women of colour or LGBTQ women while you were growing up. But strangely, it does seem that at least at a school level, the boys' sport still seems to be getting a bit more support. And I wonder what your thoughts are on that. And I've taken a question actually from one of our team members who was wanting to ask a question to you on behalf of her daughter. And she's actually interested in getting some advice. She's asked, do you have advice for young female players around the attention that the women's game gets versus men's? And the reason she's asking that is because her daughter plays with a group of girls at school, and some of the older ones are starting to get really fed up and close to wanting to quit, actually, because they feel the boys get the most support, the most attention. And so her daughter would love to know from you if you think it's worth sticking to it.
For me, I always think just if you love something, to just keep doing it. I don't think you should ever be put off because of the lack of access or facilities or support in it. I think if we all stopped the moment that we got a bit didn't get support, I think no one would ever achieve anything that they wanted to do. So for me, my most important thing is to just enjoy what you're doing. And if you find something that you love doing at school or with football, then you continue to do that. And if you love football that much, I think you just find a way to make it work. And part of becoming a top athlete is ignoring what the people say if it's negative, trying to put those comments aside, because you get a lot of negative comments being a top athlete. You're in the limelight a lot of the time, and every action that you do, as long as it's in the public eye, is going to be scrutinized by someone. You can't make everyone happy. So I think that it's just about doing what you love, continuing to do it, working hard, and surrounding yourself by people that are trying to help you achieve those goals, not surrounded by people that are going to drag you down, I guess.
That's brilliant advice. And, it's tricky for girls, but as you say, follow your passion and then become a model yourself for other girls. Speaking of which, did you have any role models as a child, both on and off the pitch?
Not really. I always say, for me, my role models are my family. I'm very close to them, and through different adversities that they faced, whether it's personal or in their profession, anything, they just always find a way to keep going, and being their authentic selves. So for me, my family are my biggest role models and inspirations. I did watch sports a lot, but I wouldn't say that there's a specific athlete or person who's really stood out for me growing up.
Well, it's great. Your family were obviously behind you. And are you aware that you are actually an icon for women and girls?
I do get told this, and it always makes me chuckle because I don't really see how, in terms of I'm just doing what I love, being as true to myself as I possibly can be, and that is, to me, just, I don't know, I'm just being me. So I don't really see that as being an icon for other people. But obviously, the more I speak to others, I understand that now myself, and whether it's other women continue to do what they love, is I guess inspiring for other people and the younger generation to realize that they too can achieve whatever they want to achieve. And so I guess I do see it a little bit more when people explain it, but I wouldn't say that I'm there to be an icon or a role model. But I guess if me being my authentic self helps to inspire some people along their own journey, then obviously it's also amazing.
Absolutely, and I can guarantee you are. There's a lot of people excited, a lot of young women excited to hear what you have to say. There's obviously a long way to go still when it comes to women's sport. What kind of progress do you hope to see over the next few years?
I think for me, the biggest thing has always been equal access to facilities, from grassroots right through to the top level of seniors. Because even in my, I guess, 10 years now of playing, I think the women's game has grown rapidly. But there's still teams, even in a top flight in England, where they don't have the same access to pitches as some other teams, or they can't. Maybe some teams can't stay overnight in hotels for away games and have to travel on the day, or their food that they get isn't as the quality is not as good, or the staff that they can get in, they can't get as many staff in as other clubs can. So I think those fine margins make a big difference in order to take a team from maybe to not as professional to professional or competing for trophies. I think they're the big differences. And for me, when we're all at the top flight of the women's game, we're all doing the same thing day in and day out, working as hard as we can. I think it's only right that we all have equal access to those facilities and to the experts really. And I think lower down, it's the same thing whether you're from a small village like me or whether you're from an inner city, wherever you are, being able to have a football pitch to go to a sporting area that you can use. And of course, those facilities will look different depending on where you come from. But I think that having a space that you can use to stay fit, to work on fitness, football, whatever sport you want to play, I think that's the biggest thing for me, because I think there would be a lot of people out there, a lot of young girls who have got such high potential to achieve becoming a professional footballer, but they can't use the AstroTurfs after a certain time because the boys are using them, or they don't have access to them, or anything like that. Like they just can't use them because of they're not being treated as equal as the boys are. So that's the biggest thing for me, is just equal opportunity for everybody, regardless of race, gender, where you live, what level you play at.
Yeah, here, here. And do you think we're heading in the right direction? Can you see that change?
I think so. I know there's obviously a couple of initiatives that, whether it's been through the PFA, whether it's through the FA, that they're trying to put into place to help encourage that, whether it's opening more AstroTurf pitches which prioritize females or certain age ranges. That never used to be a thing. Ultimately, if you were playing as a girls team on an AstroTurf and a boys team wanted to play, they're probably going to come and kick you off. So I think having those things in place where it's a lot of time slots really does help in certain areas. And obviously, whether it's something that we've done with England about trying to encourage more hours of PE in school a week, which I think was a really successful thing. So whether it's I think there's different ways that things are improving, but of course there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, and it's great that you've supported increasing hours of PE in school, because physical activity is such an important part of not just kind of leading a fun, sporty life, but also physical activity, regular physical activity throughout life can help reduce risk of cancer such as breast cancer by around 20%. But actually, I've been told that you're not someone who's actually a fan of the gym. But you've managed to stay at the peak of your fitness as a professional, and actually that's really encouraging to the rest of us who are not, mad keen for regular exercise. So as someone who isn't a fan of all this regimented kind of exercise, how do you stay active on a regular basis? And also, what are some tips for making fitness fun and desirable?
I think for me, it's the fact that I love football. I love playing football. I love being with my team. And I think that knowing that in order for me to be a professional athlete, you have to do things you don't want to do. You have to eat right. You have to go to the gym and do those extra things that you don't want to do. And I think for me, it's knowing that once I do those things, I get to reap the benefits of playing football. If I don't do those things, if I don't do the gym, if I don't eat well, I'm not going to be able to be a professional athlete. So that's for me how I have to remind myself, you need to do this, because otherwise you're not going to be able to do what you love doing on a day-to-day basis. I think as someone who's not a professional athlete, I think just find something that you enjoy doing. So if I didn't play professional football, it probably wouldn't be the gym, but it might be a different activity. I actually quite like cycling. I say that I like leisurely cycling. I won't be doing a Tour de France anytime soon, but I think just trying to find things that you enjoy. And fitness doesn't have to be how long you can run for, how fast you can run. Like, I think that people use fitness, like different measurements to suggest what fit is or isn't. And I might be able to run a few lengths of a football pitch, but if you ask me to do something else, probably can't do that at that same intensity. So I think just find an activity that you love and continue to do that. And if you don't enjoy going to the gym, find something else. If you don't enjoy walking too far, find something else. Like, there are so many different exercises out there that can help contribute to being healthy, to being fit. And I think that it's just about trial and error to figure out what your thing is.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're surrounded by some very high achieving sportswomen, and they're probably high achieving in other areas too. What does it mean to be a lioness?
I think that word's different for a lot of people. I think for me, it's about playing at the highest level that there is to play against the highest level there is to play. Some people will talk about the badge or what their dreams are, but for me, my goal once I started playing football was just to get to the best level that I could possibly get to. And at the moment, I'm at that level. And I think then playing with my Lioness teammates or Gotham teammates or Chelsea when I was there in Birmingham, it's working with one another to see what their strengths are, how they might be able to help you, and supporting one another in that journey to achieving the same goal, which is winning a trophy at the end of that season. So I think that's the main thing. It's, we pride ourselves in England as being hard to beat, working hard, being professional, being good people, hopefully playing fun, attractive football, being enjoyable to watch. And but I think that's the main thing. Yeah, hopefully. So I think they're the main things.
Yeah, I mean, look, from on a personal level, I don't really follow football, but I love watching the women's football. It's just a completely different game. It's much more engaging. So maybe I'm biased, but I think it's a much more entertaining game. And much more exhilarating. You all have a really different kind of approach when you're on the pitch, and it's much more inspiring, both from just a general kind of sports point of view, but also the fact that you are women at the top of your game, and that's such a wonderful thing for young women to see. Now, you mentioned earlier on that in order to be a successful athlete, you've got to be careful about what you eat. What you eat has an impact on your performance. Now, there's research also that shows that, having a diet that's, really well balanced, full of fruit and vegetables, fibre and so on, can help reduce risk of breast cancer. But we all have our vices, and it's hard to, not be seduced by the kinds of foods that are convenient and not great for us. So how have you managed to create your own healthy habits? And do you have any tips for how you can enjoy healthy food, and not take away that kind of, fulfillment that you get from eating, the foods that you love?
I'm probably not the best athlete in terms of answering that question, because I really, as much as I dislike the gym, I don't really like my vegetables at all. I eat them because I hate vegetables, but I eat them because obviously I have to. It's the same thing as when you're a child. You don't want to eat your veg. And I think it just gets to a point where you do things because you know that they're gonna help you. And I think that's the case of remembering things is about balance as well. Is that you can go out, you can have a nice time, you can eat those foods that you enjoy, but then also just adding a little bit of the things that you need to have or should have will also make a big difference. And I think everyone thinks that if you're trying to be healthier or trying to lose body fat or anything like that, if you have to have a really strict, extreme diet. I would not advocate for that personally, because it doesn't make me happy. When I had to try to lose some body fat my own self to be at the top of my game, I hated every second of it. But for me, I knew that I needed to do that, because ultimately to be a professional athlete, you need to be fit enough to run up and down that pitch as much as you need until that final whistle goes. So I think it's just about trying to find the right balance and making small changes until they become habits. And you might have to, at the beginning, make sure, like, you have to tell yourself that then maybe it's planning or organizing, anything like that. I think making those small adjustments, whether it's having for some people, they don't even eat breakfast. So having a breakfast would be a good start, and then having a healthier breakfast. And the same thing with lunches and dinners. If you're constantly eating out, maybe just try and have one less meal out and have it at home. It's those minor things create habits, and then sorry, minor things that you might have to actively put a lot of effort into doing, which then become habits. So I think that's the biggest thing, is it's not about making drastic changes that you see on TVs or on social media or anything like that. It's making those small habits in your day-to-day life um, better. And I think then gradually people will start to see the health benefits of it.
Yeah, and you're a great person to provide that advice, given that for you it seems like it was challenging. So making those small habits change into things that become more regular, it can, we can all do it. And I suppose for you, the benefits are, you're kind of at the top of your game physically, but does it also make you feel strong kind of in your mental health as well when you're at the peak of your fitness?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the main thing as well, that I think I played for many years not being very healthy in terms of what I was eating. And I didn't really realize, I think at the time, how much better I would feel in myself if I was a bit healthier. So when I started to have healthier habits, I noticed that I was quicker, I was sharper, I was fitter on the pitch. That in turn then made me a lot happier because I was performing a lot better. So I think that I don't ever think it's about what you look like. I think that's been a bad thing in sports, and particularly for women, that you have to look a certain way to be an athlete. I don't believe in that, but I do believe that you have to be, as long as you're fit enough to do your job for the required time that you've got to do it. For me, that's all that matters. And but I know for me that in my experience, when I've eaten better, when I've been leaner, I perform better, and then I feel a lot better as well.
And that's great because, you've had to deal with some tough issues, and some of your toughest hurdles have been off the pitch. Seeing people close to you affected directly by cancer, so including your partner, Anne-Catherine, who was treated for thyroid cancer, and then your sister as well, who was treated for breast cancer. If you're comfortable doing so, can you tell us a bit about your experience?
Yeah, I think it's been a turbulent 7, 8 years, I think. So yeah, my partner got diagnosed with thyroid cancer just maybe like a couple of months into being together, and so that was the first little hurdle in our relationship and something fun to go through together. But I think for me, she made it really easy because she is very much a realist. She's German and very direct to the point. So for her, it was a case of, to the doctor, am I going to be okay? And he was like, she actually said, am I dying? And if I'm not, what are we going to do about it? And how can I get back to the pitch? So because of her approach to it, which not everyone is like that, and it's a very hard thing to do. And of course, there's a lot of treatment that comes with it. But I think that allowed me to not be so worried, and to be able to just go through the process and, okay, right, surgery's done, tick, what's next thing? What's next thing? And focus on having something to go back to, which was football. And I know for sure that's what helped her, is knowing that at the end of the treatment, the surgeries, she was going to get back to being on the pitch and doing what she loved. So I think having something to look forward to and a bit of a goal. And I know that there's obviously a lot of setbacks that come with being sick, and it's not as straightforward. But I think that having little things to focus on is really important, because I think it's so easy to go down such a negative cycle of, I'm sick, I'm not well, and think about all the bad things. And there's a lot of positive things that you can also try to look forward to. And obviously with Anne's treatment, it was great in terms of the surgery, removed everything it needed to remove, and then the radioiodine treatment she had, everything was going really well. But then even then 2 years ago, her cancer then came back, and not as aggressive as before, and she didn't have to have surgery, but she had to have another set of treatment. And of course, that's a really difficult time. Or maybe 3 years ago now, I may have got my years wrong, but of course, that's a really difficult time. But again, it was okay, well, what can we do about it? And how do we move forward from that afterwards? With my sister, it was I'd say it was even harder because she got diagnosed with breast cancer when she was, it was during COVID, and she lived in Newcastle at that time. So she was living by herself in Newcastle, and she's not really the sort of person that's going to ask for help much anyway. But at the same, like, we physically couldn't be there to help her because of COVID, and actually, her being around us was more dangerous for her than us than her being alone. So that was a really tough time, obviously, for me, because I didn't feel like I could be there and provide the support that I would have wanted to do to support her. But even for her, because she was just totally alone, and I can only imagine, like, it's really hard to stay positive in that moment. It's with COVID as well, so she's got sick at the worst times. There kind of was no light at the end of the tunnel for her. It was, I'm alone, I'm sick, I can't go and do anything. And it was then even risky to go to the hospital for treatment because of COVID. So that was obviously a really difficult time. I think just before we went into proper lockdown, my partner and I drove up from London, just literally just to see her outside her window of her apartment. And I think we brought her some food, and we just sat outside her apartment, and she sat inside, and we just had a bit of a conversation for a short period of time, just so she, like, seen a friendly face and knew that she wasn't alone. So yeah, I think that was, yeah. Yeah, so it was a really crazy time. And for my sister, she's very bit different to me, very much into her hair, her makeup, her beauty, and obviously she lost her hair at that time. And so there'll be some very rogue pictures of myself when I shaved my hair off to support her as well. I think people thought I probably had a little midlife crisis going on. But yeah, no, I think just because I couldn't be there to support her, and I think I just wanted to show her in some whatever small way I could that she wasn't alone. So I think that was a really tough time. But I think I mean, it was much worse for her. But obviously, then fast forward a few years, there's obviously, I know a lot of people have ongoing issues after they've had their cancer treatment, or even after um, everything is much better. You obviously still have ongoing treatments and health issues or complications. But I think it's once you get through that first stage, is trying to find the small glimmers of hope. Whether it's going to the gym, whether it's getting a job, whether it's seeing family, whatever it is, trying to find those things that can bring you a bit of joy.
Absolutely. And seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, hey? But it sounds like a really
Yeah.
tough time, goodness. And did you think much about prevention before, encountering this personal connection with cancer? And if not, how has this whole experience shaped your views on prevention?
No, none at all. For me, I think obviously we're all aware of cancer, and it's a scary word for everybody. But I think that so many of us don't think we're going to be affected or have anyone in our lives that's going to be affected by it. So for me, I paid no attention to how to prevent it. I just thought it was a case of you either got it or you didn't. And when you did, you had to then try and figure out how to go through that process. Then I think once my partner and my sister got cancer, it's then obviously then it comes to, like, that staying a bit healthier, doing exercise can all help that. I know it doesn't help everyone and it doesn't prevent it, but I think if we all knew that there were small things that we could do which might increase our chances of not getting sick, I think people would do it. And I think I didn't mention before, like, my dad, recently in the past year also got diagnosed with multiple myeloma cancer. And yeah, so it's really gone through the family. But I think that again is, of course, these being sick can happen to anyone. But I think just shedding the light on small things that you can do in your life to help stay as healthy and as fit as possible and reduce our chances of being unwell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know not all cancers can be prevented, but when it comes to breast cancer, around 30% of breast cancers can be prevented through things that we can change in our lifestyle. But actually, as you say, many women don't know this. They're not aware of it, that there are risk factors that actually we can change. That's where we come in. And I suppose I was interested in understanding, what your thoughts are on prevention, but also education in particular. And, given that we can't control all the genetic risk factors, for example, that might predispose people to cancer, how important do you think it is that we focus on factors that we can control? And in particular, I'm interested in hearing what you think about how we can support young women to care about things like prevention when they haven't even got it on their radar,
I think it's really important to shed the light on how we can help prevent it. I think that there's not enough, or it's not maybe that there's not enough information out there. I think it's just that it's not as as accessible. It's not as visible, and I think that's the most important thing is shining the light on it a little bit more. This day and age, social media, everything. So whether it's social media, whether it's working with different people to try and promote the health benefits of staying healthier. And I think I feel like that's the way to go. And I think in schools, I think it's important it's hard because you don't want to go into schools and scare children or young adults and make them really worry. But I think just emphasizing the health benefits of staying healthy and being healthy. I don't think that was something that we really learned about in school, is how important it is for our bodies to be healthy. You have you eat 5 a day, but actually some of the food they feed you in schools is really bad. So you can't talk about promoting healthy eating and then feed children, young people, really poor standard food. So I think that's a big thing is kind of teaching it, but also showing it in multiple different ways without just trying to scare people. And I think the more conversations you can have around it is really amazing. But yeah, I think just from an early age of just emphasizing how important being physically active, eating better is for our bodies in general, I think will then in turn help people in the future, I guess, maintain those healthier lives.
Yeah, you're right. And I think not having those contradictory things happening, as you say, in schools, making sure that the food that we supply kids is healthy and it's an example of what we promote. And then also, as you've achieved, making sure the kids are able to have loads of physical activity built into their kind of everyday lives. And schools can play a big part in that by increasing physical activity at school. So, just by virtue of seeing this as the norm, kids are going to take these healthy habits on, Well, look, we've come to the part of our interview where we ask the same question to all of our guests. And this one is, do you have a guilty pleasure and what is it?
Oh, a guilty pleasure. I'm such a big foodie. I love I think a lot of my socializing comes from trying different food places with friends, family, teammates. I think that's my guilty pleasure is that I think I find it really hard to balance. I actually find it really, really hard to balance a healthy lifestyle in terms of nutrition. And it's a battle I think I've had all of my career. And I probably still will have the rest of my career, to be honest. So I think that's my biggest thing is just going out to eat for that social aspect of it. I really enjoy. So I don't always get the balance of that right. And even at the ripe old age of 27, I'm still trying to figure it out.
Oh, look, who doesn't? Eating with your friends or your family is one of the best pastimes, isn't it? And enjoying that. Okay, our listeners will be keen to hear your personal recommendations. So do you have a podcast or a film or book that's inspired you that you want to tell our listeners about?
Oh, not really as much. I know I'd love to be able to give a suggestion for people to
or just something you love, even if it's music.
I actually read, I'm not much of a reader at all. And I think this is the only book I've read since I left school at 16. And I recently read Michelle Obama's book. And I think it was really eye-opening for me to see her journey as someone who was so successful herself and going through her whole process with Barack Obama. I think it was really inspiring to see her journey and getting to the place where she is now. And I think just the setbacks, whether it's in her own self or her family's lives, I think just reading about that whole process and learning about it, I think was really incredible. And as someone who's not much of a book reader, I really would recommend people to read that book.
Sounds brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. What an inspirational woman she is. Okay, and what about plans? What have you got plans for the future? Have you got things on your bucket list that you want to tick off at some point?
I don't really have much of a bucket list, to be honest. I think I'm very lucky to do what I do and get to travel as much as I get to travel with playing football. So I think that's been something I wanted to achieve, was the travel side, and I've done that. I recently just bought a house, and that was, I guess, something. Maybe that's it. I never thought I'd ever be in a position to buy a house, and my partner and I have just bought one, and I think that's probably to this day one of my um, the highlights of the one of maybe the best thing I've ever done, the most rewarding thing I've ever done. I think maybe that I don't have much else on it after that.
What a wonderful place to be in, though, hey? To be really satisfied with your achievements and the life that you're living day to day. And congratulations on the house. That is a great thing to have.
Thank you.
So where can listeners find out more about you? I mean, obviously they can follow you. What's happening right now? Where are you playing, and where can they follow you?
So I'm currently at Gotham FC. It's a team based in New York, New Jersey, and then obviously with the England Lionesses for as long as Serena keeps selecting me. So I guess that's where you can follow me at the moment, and anywhere football is, I'm normally there. So yeah, just there.
Great. Well, they'll be watching. I'll be watching. Thank you so much for your generosity and also your candidness. It's really valuable, and I know our listeners will be really thrilled to be able to hear you talk. And you're very inspiring. And I wish you all the very best with your continuing career, and also for your family. I hope everybody does well as well. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you so much.